Hey guys, SK here, back with another Clash Royale video, and today I have an absolute gem for you guys. I have Betfas back on the channel, and he's going to be playing 3.0 XBOW Cycle, as always, and so this video is going to be about his global tournament results. So he actually played in the most recent Royale tournament, which is sadly over right now, but he was able to get 35 wins, and finished number 48 in the entire world, using exclusively 3.0 XBOW Cycle. No Archer Queen, nothing, and even more impressive, he was playing it with Ice Spirit. And I actually asked him about this directly. I talked to him and I said, I can't believe you did this with 3.0 XBOW, it's just unbelievable. And he said, with Ice Spirit too. And I was like, why Ice Spirit? Because in all my videos I tell you guys, Electro Spirit's just better, everyone's playing Electro Spirit. And he actually said that he wanted to challenge himself to use the hardest spirit. And that is quite literally what he did, and he succeeded. He got 35 wins. So I'm going to be sharing his replays with you guys today that got him there. Again, several hard counters. We have Giant Double Prince with Miner. We have Royal Giant Lightning with Skeleton, so Fast Cycle, and Archer Queen, so 3-card cycle. We have Giant Sparky. We have Logbait. We have Royal Giant Lightning with Skeleton King, another really hard counter, I would say, or at least very difficult matchup. And then Splashyard. So quite a few hard counters here, others normal matchups, but just very nice matches today. And so I'm very excited to be breaking them down, sharing them with you guys. The last two videos I did with a special guest had really good feedback from you guys. I had Betfas on for what I would say is the best Xbow player gameplay, ever. And then I also had Manu on the channel a few days ago playing Xbow at top 30 ladder. So just incredible players on the channel recently, and I'm very happy I'm able to commentate over their games and share my insight into their decision making and gameplay with you guys in the form of commentary. Now, I do also apologize if I sound a bit tired. I had quite a long day today. It's my dog's birthday, 6th birthday. He turned 6 today, and so we took him to the botanical gardens and had him walk around. It was really nice, and he enjoyed it. He also had a special cheesecake as kind of a birthday cake, but a light cheesecake. I did also go swimming, so I'm just overall very tired. I know you guys didn't come for the life details, though, but we are going to be getting into the replays, and so it's very impressive because we have some very hard counters. So we have everything you guys could want. If you want to know how to beat these matchups, well, why not learn from the best 3.0 XBOW Cycle player in the entire world? What's also crazy, by the way, is that his finish didn't even give him a new badge on his profile. He finished number 48, and it wasn't even enough to give him a new badge. So that just shows how good he is. He literally finishes top 50, top 100 all the time with 3.0 XBOW Cycle, this time with Ice Spirit, no less. So just crazy overall. So first game is going to be up against EA Danny, who I believe is normally a Giant Graveyard player. Going to be a very good player. Obviously, he's 83 on ladder right now. He has a top 100 finish, another basically top 100 finish, number 9 global tourney. Number 38. One of these two is probably from this most recent one. Sadly, the leaderboard is gone, so I can't check. But very good player with a hard counter, Giant Double Prince. Let's take a look at exactly how Betfas was able to beat this matchup. And so, Ice Spirit, this is actually one of the few matchups where Ice Spirit is better than Electro Spirit, because it doesn't. E-Spirit's chain doesn't offer any value in this matchup, and Ice Spirit's higher damage and longer freeze is just nothing but beneficial. So, Betfas is starting out pretty normal here, pretty standard. He goes for an Xbow, actually, and this is interesting. I think he knows that his opponent's going to be playing a Giant deck, so he feels comfortable enough going with an Xbow, especially because his opponent is leaking. He does have to make a play. Xbow thrives in single elixir, so why leak until double for most matchups? And now Giant comes down. Notice how he's supporting with a Knight and Archers, not Tesla, and that is also because they will counter push if the opponent lets them, so he is going to go for a Prince here to protect his Ewiz. And now this means Betfas is probably going to go for a log to kill the Ewiz and Prince, and then cycle back 2 skeletons for the Prince. And so just very nice micro defense. Also, I'd like you to note that Betfas just played Xbow, and he played 4 cards. He played Knight, Archers, Log, Skeletons, and that is 4 cards. Now, the opponent played Giant, and then he played Prince and Ewiz. I believe he only played 2 cards since the Giant. So Betfas is back to his Xbow right now, and his opponent is 2 cards away from a Giant. So if I had to guess Betfas' next play, it's most likely just going to be Xbow. I think that's going to be a really good game plan in this matchup, very hard matchup, where you want to take advantage in single as much as you can. So the opponent does cycle a Dark Prince in the back. So perfect Xbow by Betfas. A Miner's going to be forced to come down here if Danny doesn't want to let Betfas get an Xbow connection, which he obviously doesn't. And so Betfas is just going to go for archers again. Notice how he's not going for a Tesla on the giant. He's going archers and skeletons. And this is to let him advance his cycle a lot quicker. Also, he doesn't need to go for a Tesla. It would just be 4 elixir. It would be more expensive. It would get the same job done. You don't need to use it if you don't have to. And also, these archers are counter pushing, forced out his zap. Still got a hit. And Betfas is once again 1 card away from an Xbow. Whereas the opponent is going to be at least 2 cards away, I think. Or 1. Yeah, 2 cards away. Dark Prince and then Miner. So he's going to go for an Xbow. Prince comes down. So basically, Betfas is going opposite lane to his opponent. Even though he has more damage in the right, why would he go Xbow into a Prince? It makes no sense, so he's just not going to do that. So he's going to go for a Knight to tank for the Prince, then Archers. Notice this placement. He went for the Knight in the middle to kite the Prince all the way over. Then he was able to go for Archers that would deal with both sides. So just very smart placements by Betfas. I was thinking he might go for a Knight on the Dark Prince, but then he wouldn't have had anything for the Prince. So very smart by him, just letting the Xbow die. He did try his best to go aggressive, but it didn't work out, and that's also fine. Now he's going for Ice Spirit Knight for the Miner. He's actually looking to be very like anxious. Not really the word, but just not willing to take much Miner chip damage. He doesn't want to go down in damage against the Miner chip, so he's not letting it. Now he goes for a pre-Tesla. I think pre-Teslas are going to be really good in this matchup. At the right times, though, not just always pre-Tesla, especially because it only has 30 seconds lifetime now. Also, the Giant was buffed. I would say this match was one of the matchups that got a lot harder after the balance changes, nerfing Xbow and buffing Giant. Now Betfas is going to have a whole push to defend with, but notice how he does have this Knight Archer counter push, so it's kind of defense through offense in a way. A lot of decks do that, such as Royal Hogs. You know, they go Royal Hogs when you're building a big push, so you can't fully commit. This is kind of the same concept where the opponent can go in, but he's still going to have to commit to this side as well, so Betfas is given a bit of leeway. To defend, he's just going to cycle back to another Tesla here, and Fireball comes down on the Archers, but Miner is thankfully fully taken out, and now Betfas is going to go for an Xbow with this Knight, most likely. No, he actually goes opposite lane, which is smart. Yeah, this is his lower health tower, so in a matchup like this, you almost never want to go same lane. Actually, you basically never ever want to go same lane, because they're just going to be able to go for Miners on your Xbows, Fireballs on your Xbow, and your weaker health tower. So Xbow is definitely an opposite lane deck. Now Betfas going for Archers. He's definitely going to go for a Log for this Ewis as well, and then Ice Spirit. So he's defending his Xbow. He gets a connection for it. So if he sees an Xbow opportunity, he's going to take the most that he can and maximize the potential of that Xbow lock. Because if you just let that Xbow go, he wouldn't have gotten that connection. He would have just been down damage again. So he's not... Notice how in the first few Xbows he went for, he didn't overcommit to them. But now that he got an opportunity for a lock that he knew was coming, he committed fully to it. So just very smart player, knowing when to let Xbows die, when to fully commit to them. That's going to be a skill you have to learn as well, which you'll only learn over time. So Betfas is a very experienced player. And the opponent's kind of cycling cards into the right lane to not let Betfas go in. So Betfas isn't going in, he's just defending. Opponent's going for Miner cycles on the tower. Betfas caught the Miner, so very smart. And he just stacked 2 Teslas against the Giant. There's really no other play. You can't really defensive Xbow in this matchup, I would say, unless you already take their tower and single elixir. And now Betfas has outcycled the Giant yet again, so he's probably going to let this Xbow die. Like, notice how he's never ever going for Xbow Tesla at the bridge, at least right now. You never want to do that. This is a common mistake I see a lot of beginner Xbow players make. That was a very funny Dark Prince jump, which actually hurt Betfas and bypassed the log, so a bit unfortunate. But Fireball is forced out in the lane that Betfas doesn't mind. He doesn't mind the opponent going this lane. He wants to prevent damage in the left lane. And now he's going to go for a Tesla, but high, not right next to the Xbow, because he still wants the Xbow to tank for the Tesla. He doesn't want to let the Tesla die super early. But now he's just constantly cycling Xbows, basically. And now he's basically realized the opponent's going to be cycling cards in the back to prevent him from getting an Xbow lock. So he's going to be forced to just defend, spell cycle, and then probably just defend against the Miners. So he's probably going to try and either catch the Miners or go for Ice Spirit Knight for the Miners. And now he's going for a low Knight, and it doesn't catch the Miner, but it's interesting because for me, I would probably go for a Knight on the Giant and the Mega Minion on the Giant to DPS it down. But actually, the main threat in this push isn't the Giant, it's the Miner, and the Giant is tanking for the Miner. So Betfas, recognizing that, is defending the Miner instead of the Giant with the Knight, and it's just really smart. So he took some damage, but if the knight was not on the miner, miner would have survived a lot longer. So just very smart. Now Betfas going for a casual fireball cycle. No point going for an Xbow at all. And now his knight actually catches the miner. So very well played by Betfas, catching the miners and cycling fireballs at the very end. Just a flawless game, I would say, against a hard counter. Like, I would say this matchup is 70-30 in Giant's favor. But Betfas just punished exactly. The opponent made a couple of mistakes, and Betfas knew exactly what to do. So that is the game plan you want to go for against Giant Double Prince. They do have Miner, which is why it makes it a very hard matchup in my opinion, because they have the Giant to tank for your Xbow, which never really lets it go. And then they also have the Miner, and Fireball as a crutch, so Xbow is kind of weak to spells, kind of weak HP-wise, but a strong damage-wise, so decks with Miner and spells can usually take advantage of Xbow's weakness by going for Miners on the Xbow, Fireball on the Xbow and Tower, and so you always want to be going opposite lane. Also, there is a tip that's kind of still relevant, but a bit outdated against Giant, which is go for Xbows in the middle of the river, around where I'm tapping my thumb right now. It is a good tip, but it doesn't really work in a lot of situations, because they can just get a free E-Wiz and Mega Minion on the Giant. Notice how Betfas never went for that the whole game. So it's very specific. It's a very good placement if you want the Giant to walk around the bridge, but also now that Princes can jump over the river, I think it's just not advisable to go for that placement much at all anymore, so Betfas just didn't do it anymore. And so that's something you want to take note of. That was, I think, in the top 1K, because that has 1,000 views, that match, so just a lot of people watching Betfas destroy a hard counter. So on to the next match against BFPP Tovley, who's playing Royal Giant Lightning with Archer Queen, and this is going to be a matchup that I think is very hard, because there are just many reasons why it's hard. He has the Royal Ghost, which can kind of serve as a way to bait out your knight, because you don't really have great answers to the Ghost apart from the knight. He also does have a fast cycle in the form of skeletons, Electro Spirit, double cycle cards, so you can't even really out-cycle. And he does have Lightning, not Fireball, so he can just out-damage you. So we'll see exactly how Betfas is going to deal with this. By the way, in almost all these matchups, I don't think Betfas knew exactly what the opponent was playing. Maybe for Danny he did. But for this, I think he's just playing normally, which is why I just split archers, and he's playing casually at the start. But once he recognizes the matchup, he switches his game plan. And so Fisherman comes down. I think Betfas was hesitating a bit here and missed his Fireball on the tower, but still going to force a response onto his knight. And so for me, I would probably just go for a Tesla against the Fisherman. But I'm not sure. And here he goes for a Queen. And some advice that I've personally learned was to go for Xbows when they go Queen in the back. But I think Betfas knows that it's going to be Royal Giant Lightning now after seeing the Fisherman. And so it's not worth it to go for an Xbow. Just give him a free Royal Giant. So that's why Betfas is just going for a Tesla. Very safe center play that can support both lanes. And so he's just going to play safe right now. Ghost coming down. Betfas is going to have to cycle back to a knight for this Ghost, most likely. An opponent does let the Queen get taken out, so Betfas didn't go for a knight right away, because if the Queen's ability came down, he would have had to go for something to tank for it, so he was just very patient there. Now RG comes back, but that's why you pre-place Teslas in this matchup. You can easily get back to them. So Betfas is already only one card away from a Tesla, and he's already back to it now, so he just goes for it. Standard defense against the RG. You always want to go Archer's same lane if you're defending an RG push. You don't want to split them, because you need their DPS coming down on the RG. And one benefit of the RG Lightning matchup is that they can't really kill your archers. Now this person is having Log and Electro Spirit, which does actually take out archers. But if you don't let the E-Spirit chain onto the archers, you'll be fine. Now Betfas outcycled the RG. So he's going for an Xbow, very smart. I think that was actually kind of a bad RG by the opponent. Maybe he thought he outcycled the Tesla as he was doing well, but just going for aggressive RGs like that, as an Xbow player, you know you can punish them, and Betfas did so. And he actually predicted the Queen with the Knight here. If the opponent went for a Lightning on the Xbow, it wouldn't have hit the Knight. So Knight, he still would have had to respond to the Knight. If you went for a Lightning on the High Knight and Xbow, then you wouldn't have gotten any tower damage. So either way, just a very good situation by Betfas. Opponent has to go for the ability here, or else he would entirely lose his Queen. And so Xbow gets connection, because as you know, Xbow will retarget off the invisible Queen. And very good punish by Betfas. Now, I think he wanted to get those skeletons in earlier to tank for the Queen ideally, but he didn't get them down. But that's still okay. He still got 1,000 damage. He's up a lot. And I think someone like Betfas would win from this position. Someone like me, I might actually choke this position. In fact, I have. I was up 1,000 damage against RG Lightning on ladder last season, and I lost anyways, so we're going to see how Betfas deals with it. He goes for a Knight for the Ghost, again resetting with this pre-Tesla, and now the opponent goes for a Lightning, so Betfas is going to have to still respond to the Ghost. Fireballs the Queen, and another Log will take it out, or the Ice Spirit, or he might just Knight on top as well. Yeah, he goes for a Knight. Queen is unfortunately getting quite a lot of value at only 1 HP, but it is what it is. Betfas is just fine. He's also log cycling in the left lane, and this is a bit unfortunate timing. He split archers the same time the opponent went RG at the bridge, so maybe a tiny misplay. Maybe Betfas could have gone for archers around where I'm tapping right now to DPS down the RG, but he will still be fine. He goes for anti-lightning high Tesla. This is the placement you want to use if you don't want them to lightning your Tesla on your tower. Now he goes for an Xbow because if the opponent went for a lightning there, he basically would have lost on the spot. So that's what this Xbow is accomplishing, you know, forcing the opponent to maybe make a bad play, or punishing if they do make a bad play. But if not, Betfas is going to let this go. RG comes down, which means Xbow is going to be dead. Betfas is not spamming, you know, Knight, everything on the RG, just letting it die. And he caught the Fisherman there to not take any damage. Now he's going to go for a Knight. Notice how he's also separating his troops, his Knight and Tesla. And he's also changing up his placements every single time. He went for a Tesla way at the bottom because the opponent went for a lightning in this general direction. He was expecting the high Tesla, and so Betfas just switched it up, got one in over his opponent, and that's what you have to do. You have to switch Tesla placements every time. Pretty sure Betfas does the same thing with a Tesla again. He just changes the placement again, so just very smart. We'll see exactly how Betfas is going to defend. He's probably not going to go for Xbows when the opponent has RG and Cycle. He's probably going to want to go for Xbows when RG was just used. Because if you just go for an Xbow randomly, they're just going to get a free Royal Giant on your Xbow. So, Tesla's gone, but he's going to cycle back to another one. Now he's going for Anti-Lightning, and he's going for Archers instantly, so he's just DPSing down this RG instantly. He's very methodical with his placements. He's very sharp, he's not hesitating at all. Now he's going for an Xbow because he has this Knight Archer's counter push, and it's actually good because it got on the Royal Ghost. Was able to take out the Royal Ghost, and did force the RG out. And if Betfas can keep forcing out RGs in this way, the opponent won't be able to get a huge push coming in. So Betfas is playing very smart, and another anti-lightning Tesla. He doesn't want the opponent to start spell cycling on his tower. He also doesn't want the opponent to get any spell value on the tower. So now a bit of a tricky defense. He goes for very smart skeletons there, knowing the Fisherman was going to come down for this Knight to... You always want to do that. So this is why Mother Witch was hard in RG decks for a while, because Mother Witch was able to punish your skeletons. But if they don't have Mother Witch, now they usually run Archer Queen, you can predict the Fisherman with skeletons. It will be very good if you can keep your Knight on the RG, keep your Knight for the Ghost, not get it pulled away by the Fisherman. And Betfas is once again switching his Tesla placement, like just very smart, just always switching. And also goes for a low log, not a high log, because he wants to push the RG back. He's fine not getting that extra tower damage. And now he's actually getting quad archers down, I believe, or at least he could have. Here I would say was a minor mistake. I think he could have gone for archers off to the very side, but just on the Expo principle of separating your troops to prevent spell value. The Fisherman was here, the log was coming down. It was most likely going to take out those older archers, but anyways, it's still okay. The archers are alive and DPSing down. There's only 20 seconds left, so he's going to go for an Expo now. RG is going to be forced to come down on the Expo. Gets a free fireball on the Queen as well. RG is way too far up to even make a difference, so the opponent is going to try some last minute pressure that RG's not going anywhere anytime soon, and Betfas is just defending it very well, very smart. Somehow winning by this much of a margin against a very hard counter. Like, when I play against RG, I try and play like this, and then I just lose. But Betfas just always wins against it. I don't even know how. I think he beat Samuel Basoto at the top with this matchup as well last season. So just very impressive against two very hard counters, I would say. Maybe RG isn't a super hard counter, but considering he has double cycle cards and the lightning and the log, not even barb barrel, I would say it is quite a hard counter. Betfas just played amazing. So next up, we're going to take a look at Splashyard, which is a matchup that a lot of you guys have been asking for recently, and this is an interesting one, right? Because Tesla was nerfed twice. Xbow has been nerfed, so the spells of the graveyard player do more damage, and Tombstone was buffed, which means they are usually playing Tombstone now, not Bomb Tower or Goblin Cage, and they can stall out the Tombstone, they can stall out the graveyards for quite a while. Sorry, the Xbows, oh my god, I'm very tired. But they can stall out your Xbows with constant Tombstones, with poison cycling on your Xbow. And so you can't just spam Xbows all the time. You have to play this very smart. We're going to see exactly how Betfas does this against, I think this is a popular YouTuber, but I'm not sure, because I know there was one called Pong back in the day. Don't know if it's the same guy. He's obviously good because he was this high up in the global tourney, like 30 plus wins. All these matches that Betfas shared are from the very top of his global tournament performance. So, just letting you guys know. He goes for an Xbow with this Knight because Baby Dragon is gone and Knight is counter pushing, so why not? And now you see kind of an issue where the poison is going to tick down on the Xbow. Betfas goes for a Tesla here, and this is interesting, right? Because I always tell you guys, don't just go mindlessly go for Xbow Tesla at the bridge. But Betfas is doing it here. You might be wondering why. And the reason for that is because Bar Barrel was just used, actually. So the opponent is going to be forced to play one other card, or Tornado, most likely, because he can't just Bar Barrel to finish off the Xbow. So just a very minor detail that Betfas noticed and punished right away. And if the opponent lets this HP Xbow go, it'll be a few hundred damage, which the opponent doesn't want to take. So Betfas is committing. He's logging the Ice Wizard back and getting a small connection, forces the Tornado out. So just very smart, minor details that even other top ladder players might miss. But someone like Betfas is never going to miss that. Knew Bar Barrel was out of cycle, committed very hard to the Xbow, and got more damage before the Tornado. But now he's cycling back to another Xbow. Now he's going for an Xbow because he did outcycle the opponent's Knight, which is going to be his main tank. But now you see the issue as well. Tombstone comes down. It's just going to stall out the Xbow for so long. And Baby Dragon in the meantime is DPSing it down, but Betfas does still reset the Baby Dragon and gets another connection, so very smart by him, outcycling the Knight, which would be the main tank for the Xbow. Also notice how he caught the Bar Barrel. That is a skill that I mentioned quite a lot, but if you want to play Xbow, you just have to practice that timing. That's really all you can do. You have to be able to catch Bar Barrels. Now the opponent is threatening to go with the Graveyard because Betfas doesn't have archers in cycle, so he's going to be forced to defend, and the way he's going to defend this is go for a low Tesla, which will, 1, DPS down the Knight, but 2, help out with the Graveyard afterwards. So your general defense against the Graveyard is going to be with a log, especially if they go for a poison or if they have a tank for the Graveyard. If you don't have archers, or if your archers get poisoned out, you're going to need to log the Graveyard. And so Betfas is going to go for a log, and I was curious before I watched this to see how he would do it. I thought he would maybe go Skeletons to also DPS the Knight down earlier, but turns out he actually waits on the Skeletons, waits on the log. So he goes for a log, very nice, doesn't take any Graveyard hits, and then goes for Skeletons after the fact. And that is actually very smart. He takes about 3 skeleton hits from that defense, but he was very smart holding on to the Skeletons because the opponent Graveyard at the start didn't get any damage, so very smart by Betfas. Now he goes for a very smart Xbow as well. No Knight in cycle, so Tombstone had to come down. He's going for an Xbow Tesla again. Tesla to take out the Baby Dragon, and then it can maybe stay alive to also help out with the next Xbow. This is one of the few matchups where Tesla at the bridge is going to be quite good. So now Betfas just splits archers. Graveyard is probably coming in here, or actually the opponent goes for a bad poison, I would say. Betfas was maybe baiting the poison out with the archer, with the Skeletons, with the Knight. Or the opponent just got aggressive and played a bad poison, I would say, because now he doesn't have poison in cycle for this Xbow. And he's in a bit of trouble here. So he goes for a log for the Tombstone, and Xbow is on tower. So now Betfas is going to commit very hard to this Xbow. Goes for a Tesla at the bridge to DPS down the Baby Dragon, and that puts him in the damage lead. He also goes for Skeletons. Could have surrounded the Ice Wizard. Minor mistake, but not really a big deal at all, honestly. So Tesla's coming and DPSing down. Now the opponent goes for a Knight, I think, to predict the next Xbow. But Betfas is a very smart player, very passive, and this is a play that I was just very confused by. The opponent goes for Graveyard Poison, Naked Graveyard. I think he might also go for a Bar Barrel to tank for it, but just very aggressive considering Betfas does have this Knight Archers initiative in the left. He can easily go for an Xbow with this afterwards, and the opponent did just waste his poison. Did just spend 9 elixir for technically 1.5, because this Archer is technically only worth 1.5. And here you're going to see how you defend Graveyard without Archers. You want to get a really good log. So Betfas goes for an Xbow and waits very long on this log, and then goes for it. So I might go for the log a bit earlier, but Betfas is pretty methodical and knows pretty much the best time to go for a log on the Graveyard. You want to wait for the Skeletons to rack up, but you don't want to wait too long so that they don't get too much damage on the tower. Now he's going for another Xbow. That's why he cycled Ice Spirit at the back. He was cycling back to an Xbow. Didn't cycle it at the bridge because it would just get killed by the poison, so very smart by Betfas. Now the opponent has nothing in hand. Knight is nowhere to be seen. Betfas gets a prediction log down, and that gets him a connection. He's going to Fireball this Ice Wizard. Going to make the most of this connection. Go for a Knight to break the Baby Dragon. Baby Dragon comes down opposite lane instead, but that is definitely going to be enough to take him out. And just going to be a flawless game by Betfas. So key takeaways there, I would say. Log timing on the graveyard, very important, and Expo pressure is important, but not just spamming Expos all the time. You want to go for Expos if the opponent's just committed to a graveyard push, or if the opponent just wasted their poison, or if you have some kind of advantage on the field. You don't just want to always go for Expos, and that's what Betfas did. He was aggressive with Expos, but he was very passive and smart with them as well. He didn't just spam them all the time. So very well played by Betfas. Here we have the next match, which is against God Nakashu, which is going to be the Officer Ramses deck, but with Lightning instead of Fireball, and Tombstone instead of Skeleton Army. And I would say both of those things make it harder, because Tombstone is more annoying than Skeleton Army, I would say, since it just, like you saw in the Splashyard matchup, it just tanks for the Expo for a long time. And Lightning is obviously worse than Fireball because it does more damage to the Expo, takes out the Tesla, but again, the saving grace in this matchup is going to be the archers. So we're going to see exactly how Betfas deals with this matchup, and I'm just honestly amazed that he used Ice Spirit. Like, Skeleton King is a matchup where any Skeleton King deck, you would want the Electro Spirit to take out all of the spawn skeletons, but Betfas just is comfortable with an Ice Spirit, challenging himself. Very impressive. And he goes for a Knight against this Fisherman. I think when you see Fisherman, you can basically be guaranteed that it's going to be an Archie deck. Now Betfas sees a Tombstone as well, so maybe he thinks it's going to be Graveyard. Skeleton King as well. I think there is some kind of Graveyard deck, so Betfas does go for an Expo here. The opponent gets a free Royal Giant down, so if Betfas knew that the opponent had Royal Giant, he might not have gone for this Expo, but I think in any case it's fine because you can see the Knight Archer DPSing it down. Here I want to take note of Betfas' Fireball timing. Very precise timing to deal with the Mother Witch. You pretty much want to Fireball Mother Witches a lot, or double log them, but he waits for the Knight to die so that it spawns into a Cursed Hog, and then Fireball so the Cursed Hog gets taken out as well. So just very smart, small attention to detail that isn't even noticeable if you don't look for it, but Betfas is just always looking for the most value out of his cards. And ability comes down. I might have logged there, but Betfas didn't even panic, knew that the Knight would be alive for long enough, and didn't need to log. And so he is up about 1 elixir, did outcycle the Royal Giant, and so that is one of the other benefits of going for early Expos like that. Even if the opponent has a hard counter like the Royal Giant, you can go for the Expo to kind of bait it out, and then go for a follow-up Expo. So a lot of the time in this game, you're thinking about plays in the future, not right away, and Betfas was doing just that here. He outcycled the RG, went for the next Expo, didn't overcommit to his first Expo, but he knew that on the second Expo he could maybe make something happen. And he's going to do just that. And so Fisherman comes down, and actually misplayed Fisherman. Not sure what was up with that. Betfas just fireballs the Zappies and gets a connection for it, and Lightning is forced out. Betfas can just go for an Ice Spirit, opposite lane. Not a placement I've ever used, but it does work. Now he's going to pressure. He knows the opponent's low on Elixir. He just used a Lightning, and Zappies, and Fisherman. So he's pressuring with Knight and Archers at the bridge, and even going to log here. So this is one like philosophy that I like to use, that can help you improve your gameplay. If you're going to make a play, do it at as early as you can, basically. Like, okay, it's kind of hard to put into words, but basically, if Betfas lets the Skeleton King kill his Archer, he would have had to log it on his side anyways. So why not log it first while the Archer is still alive to get a bit more value out of the Archer? And that is what Betfas did, using his log to get more value out of his Archers, using his different cards to get value out of other cards in his deck. And it can apply to a lot of things. Like, if you're going to go for a Knight against something, you don't necessarily need to wait. You can go for a Knight early on. It's hard to explain, but basically what I'm saying is Betfas knew he would have to log the Skeleton King either way, so he went for it at the most optimal time while the Archer was still alive to get a few more Archer shots in, as opposed to not going for the log, waiting till now to go for the log, and might not even have made a difference, but it was just a nice play to see, just nice getting value out of his cards, if that makes sense. So now he's kind of in a reset situation, probably going to go for a pre-Tesla in the middle, As he does, Mother Witch comes down. Betfas is not going to let this skeleton get taken out by the Mother Witch. He's going to go for a Knight to block and not let the opponent get any cursed hogs. Now he's going to Fireball because Mother Witch is out of cycle. I guess he feels comfortable enough doing it. And now he goes for a defensive Xbow. This Xbow is going to be the anti-lightning placement. And so I want to point your attention to the fact that in the previous RG matchup, Betfas didn't go for a single defensive Xbow, I believe. And that was because he was keeping up Xbow pressure. But in some matchups, you can't go for defensive Xbows like that because you need the Xbow available on offense at the right time. But in this matchup, it's going to be a lot harder to make an Xbow pressure situation happen, since the opponent has two big tanks. He has the RG and the Skeleton King and the Lightning, three decent counters to the Xbow, and so now he thinks a defensive Xbow is going to be worth the most. Anti-Lightning to his right side tower, so that if the opponent Lightnings it, he will not hit his weaker side tower, he'll have to hit his healthier tower. So that is where Xbow placements comes into play. Now a Skeleton King RG push coming in, Betfas is just slowly Fireball cycling. Skeleton King ability comes in, Betfas doesn't even need an Electro Spirit for this, just logs, and he's being pretty conservative with his logs actually. He seems to always have a login cycle for the Skeleton King ability, and he does take one RG hit there, but now he can go for an Xbow because RG's out of cycle and Skeleton King was also out of cycle. Now Skeleton King is back, but Betfas is going to go for a Knight, separating his Knight from the Xbow so the Skeleton King splash doesn't hit everything, and he's going for Archers. Remember what I said about going Archers same lane against RG? That's what he's doing here. He's going for Ice Spirit Skeletons as well to DPS down the RG. Takes one hit, but is still fine. Kind of a bad fisherman by the opponent here, panicking a little bit maybe. Seeing a possible Knight damage coming in, but it didn't come in, so just interesting. And now Betfas resets with another defensive Xbow, so if something isn't going to work, if he knows an Xbow isn't going to work on offense, he's going to go for it on defense instead. And go for a Knight in the back to deal with the Skeleton King, and he's probably going to go stack Archers here, or split them. Actually, either one would be fine, but yeah, he is stacking them against Skeleton King, and taking the Fireball value against the Mother Witch. So the opponent is choosing not to Lightning the defensive Xbow, which is seeming to hurt him, because he's cycling Zappies, they're just getting taken out by the Xbow, and Betfas is fine to just chill out here, because he does have a huge damage lead from before, so he's just fine just chilling out, defending. Low-key Fireball cycling, like he's been fireballing Tombstones, Fisherman, now fireballs the Skeleton King, and he's just slowly cementing his damage lead. Now the opponent elects to Lightning on the Xbow, but that means he won't have Lightning for his push, and so Betfas is just fine. Defending now, he gets good Fireball value on the Mother Witch and Zappies. He is going to take it. He didn't just Fireball right away. He knew he could get more value if he waited. Now an anti-Lightning Tesla comes in because the opponent is back to his Lightning. And as you can see, he wasn't able to hit the Tesla. And now Betfas is just Fireball cycling. And he's confident that he will be able to defend. He's going for Archers like that. I've never actually seen that placement before. Might have to use it. But now the opponent goes for a surprise, switches lanes. Betfas goes for a low Tesla, knowing that the opponent is cycling, is committing so much that he won't be able to go for a Lightning. He played the Fisherman, Zappies, RG. There's no way he would have enough for a Lightning in time. And Betfas just absolutely destroyed this matchup. I don't even know... I don't really have many words to describe how well he's playing right now. He's just beating all these hard counters at very high wins in the global tournament. It's just ridiculous. But it looked like he was in control that entire game. It's just very impressive against God Nakashu. We do have two more replays to show today. One is going to be against Barn, a very good Giant Sparky player who I'm actually friends with, and one against Logbait. I think you guys would want to see the Logbait matchup first, because Logbait is a matchup that I personally also really dislike playing against. And Betfas does have Ice Spirit, not even Electro Spirit. Electro Spirit is better against Logbait, so we'll see how Betfas is able to win this. We're watching from the Logbait player's perspective, so Betfas is going to be on top, but hopefully you can still understand his plays and decisions just fine. So Golem Barrel comes down, Betfas and Electro Spirit. At that point, you already know it's going to be Logbait. I'm interested why Betfas didn't go for a Knight to activate King off of that Electro Spirit, but maybe he was comfortable just not getting it that early on. And now he goes for an Ice Spirit, but he's not going to overcommit. He knows that his Xbow got sizzled down by the Inferno. He knows that it's basically dead, so he lets it die. Princess comes down. Archers will take them out. And Betfas is a bit unhappy with that situation. He's giving the Goblin face-palming emoji because he doesn't really like how it happened. But now he's going to go for another Xbow. goes for a knight to cycle back, and notice how he's waiting on this Xbow. He's not going for it right away, because he doesn't want to give the opponent rocket value on both. The opponent was forced to go for guards there to make sure the knight stayed in place. So just nice play by Betfas, not giving insane rocket value. Small plays like that really make all the difference sometimes. And the opponent is trying to catch Betfas out with a tricky barrel. Not going to work. Betfas catches it just fine. You always want to be on the lookout for tricky barrels. The way I like to deal with them is by looking at their shadows. The barrel itself has a shadow, which is a bit more indicative of where the barrel's going to go compared to the barrel's animation itself. And Betfas is going to go for archers in the same lane. Now, I made a video with Betfas earlier as well, and against Logbait, he was doing the same thing where he was going archers in the same lane. And that is something I never really considered. I would always like split archers in the back or up high in case a princess at the bridge comes down. But Betfas is not doing that. He's just going for archers in the same lane. And I guess it works for him, so maybe something to take note of. Opponent can no way go for an Inferno Tower here. If he goes for Inferno Tower, he's basically going to lose because Betfas is prepared, and he does. So I feel like the opponent didn't play well here. He went for Princess, Valk, Inferno, just going out of his way for no reason. Like, just rocket the Xbow. There's nothing wrong with that. You would get out of single elixir. You would do just fine, but the opponent is being stubborn, decides to try and make an Inferno Tower work, and I think he's going to get punished for it. So Betfas going for an Ice Spirit to reset, and then Tesla, and that is basically a dead Inferno Tower. The opponent has no elixir right now, forced to log this Xbow, and Xbow's on tower. So if you're a Logbait player, I would say just rocket the Xbows. Like, this is what happens if you don't, as an Xbow player. If they go for an Inferno Tower, be ready to protect your Xbow, assuming you're not down in elixir, and you will get rewarded with a connection like that. Now, I want to also take note to the fact that Betfas was comfortable enough going for a log on that princess and guards. You really don't need to save your log for the barrel every single time. There are many other ways you can defend it. There is a way with easier way is just the fireball the barrel, -1 trade, but it gets the job done perfectly. Another way is with your cycle cards, and another way is with your archers and skeletons. So there are many ways. Betfas here just goes for skeletons and an Ice Spirit, also pressuring with this Xbow, which is actually very smart because the opponent was very low in elixir at that time. So the opponent goes for a really bad log here. I think he should have just saved up for a rocket, but he doesn't do that, and Betfas gets another connection. He's protecting this Xbow with his knight. Xbow takes out the princess, and that is basically a good game. The opponent knows it, Betfas knows it, and he's pressuring opposite just because why not? But I would say Betfas played this very well. He didn't really make any mistakes, but the mistakes were more so on the opponent's part, because it gets hard. This matchup gets hard if you just rocket every Xbow to Logbait player and then cycle rockets in triple elixir. But it looks like the opponent didn't want to do that here, and Betfas did punish him just fine for it. So if you're an Xbow player against Logbait, if you think they're going to go for Inferno on your Xbow, be ready to defend it, but don't predict the Inferno with something like a knight. I would say predict it with something like skeletons or Ice Spirit, and then go from there. But very nice game against Logbait. The opponent didn't play the best, but Betfas played perfectly anyway, so what does it matter? And now we're into the final replay against Barn, a very, very talented Giant Sparky player. He actually finished number 200 something, I believe, on ladder. This is his mini account. He's, as you can see, he's level 12 on it, and he finished top 2,000 in the world as a level 12, which is just insane. And he has a top 100 global tourney finish, might be from this global tourney. He's really good. I'll show you his profile on his main account. Let me try and find it. His name is kind of funny, not gonna lie. Where is his profile? It should be somewhere here. Yeah, there it is. I'm not going to pronounce that out loud, but Mr. Eric here, yeah, finished 223 in the world. Just very insane player, very good Sparky player, and this is a hard matchup, I would say, with Queen. This is like the new Giant Sparky version that Agony King switched to, and Betfas was able to beat it with archers, not even Archer Queen. So we'll see exactly how he's able to do that. Again, watching from the perspective of Barn, so that's why I wanted to show these two replays last, because I thought you guys would prefer to watch the replays from Betfas' perspective first. But it's still okay, we can see the game just fine. And so getting into the match, the opponent goes for a Heal Spirit. Betfas just splitting his archers. Probably doesn't know what Barn is playing right away, but after seeing Heal Spirit and Zap, he can probably narrow it down to this deck. And so he's going to go for a Fireball and Log on the Queen. And if he did that earlier, he would have gotten an even bigger connection, because the Queen did get one hit. Mini P.E.K.K.A. also got a hit. So if Betfas defended that even more, he might have actually just won already. But basically going for an Xbow because the opponent wasted a Heal Spirit and a Zap. Betfas had Archer counter pushing, made sense to go in, and went for the inner Xbow over there. I'll explain more on that placement later. But now he basically knows the opponent has Giant Sparky because Mini P.E.K.K.A. Zap Heal Spirit is basically guaranteed to be a Giant Sparky matchup. Or Goblin Giant. Well, Goblin Giant Sparky usually doesn't run Heal Spirit actually. It usually runs Rage. So yeah, he basically knows. And now he's going for an Xbow. So for me, I feel like the play that I learned how to play this matchup was from Ian, and what I learned was when they go for Sparky in the back, you go for a defensive Xbow and then just defend. But Betfas is fully confident that he's going to be able to Xbow. I guess it's against Goblin Giant Sparky Rage that you go for the full defense, and against normal Giant Sparky you can punish. You, by the way, absolutely don't want to go same lane as the Sparky. There's a play that I hate when I go for an Xbow against Sparky, and they just ignore it and then go for a low Sparky in the back and build up a big push. They take some damage, but they basically take your entire tower on the counter push. So I guess Betfas is avoiding that, not going same lane, going opposite, and going with the inner Xbow placement again. And so Giant comes down, and Betfas is going for Archers here, not Tesla. And that is interesting, but what I would have done was gone for a Tesla in the middle, which would DPS down this Giant. That's why you want to go for the inwards Xbow, so that a middle Tesla will take out the Giant while it's on the Xbow. Then you can push the Sparky into the Tesla with a Cycle card. But I think Betfas didn't want to do that, because he didn't have any Cycle cards in Cycle. He had only Knight next up in Cycle. So, in fact, why overcommit with a Tesla when you can just go for Archers instead? So, pretty smart play by Betfas either way. And he does just go for a Knight on the Sparky. And the opponent Barn here predicts the Knight, so Betfas is forced to go for a Fireball as well on the Queen, and logs it back. So he didn't even wait for the ability to come down, he knew ability was coming down, so he logged it back, just very confident in his plays, and it paid off because he basically didn't take any damage from that push. And now the opponent's Giant is out of Cycle, Sparky's also out of Cycle. But he is one card away from Sparky, so Betfas is not in any rush to cycle back to an Xbow and punish. He's just going to play it safe. Zap comes down, so Betfas is just going to reset with Archers in the back. Seeing what the opponent does, goes for Sparky, so Betfas is going to go for an Xbow once again. And he might go for Tesla. Okay, looks like Barn... I don't know why. I don't see any reason why Barn should have let that connect. So, especially because he doesn't have Zap and Cycle to reset it. So I only guess can be Barn lagged against that, and or panicked and got the Giant down late. But either way, Betfas is happy for it, gets an Xbow connection, and now defends with the Knight. Goes for a Tesla low, and Mini P.E.K.K.A. is coming in, and this is a bit of an annoying situation when the Giant's tanking for the Mini P.E.K.K.A. You can see it's on the tower, and Ice Spirit, with good intentions to pull the Mini P.E.K.K.A. back, but it got 3 hits on the tower, so now this is a very dire situation. Betfas is in a do or die. He's going to have to get a connection here. And notice how Betfas took the entire Sparky hit, and then went for a Knight, and the reason for that is because his left side tower was lower in HP, so his right side was basically full. Actually, I guess it would be his left side tower from his perspective, but we're going to use the perspective we're looking at. His right tower here was basically full HP, so he knew he could take a Sparky hit and then go for a Knight after. Very smart by Betfas defending. Now goes for an Xbow. He's very desperate for an Xbow connection, not going in the left because he knows the opponent has a Fireball, and so he doesn't want to give him Fireball value in the same lane that the opponent wants damage in. And now Betfas is dealing with the Queen at the bridge. Archers are very good with this. You can see that the ability was forced out, otherwise Queen would have died. And Betfas is fine. So now he goes for an Xbow and Knight to predict the Giant. DPS down the Giant as soon as possible. Even goes for Archers. And he's basically discouraging the opponent from going for a Fireball on the Xbow here, because Knight and Archers would stay alive. He does need to respond to them, so he's forced to Fireball high. Very smart. Intentionally giving Fireball value so that Barn isn't able to get a Fireball. And now Betfas is in a really good position because he's outcycled the Giant, outcycled the Fireball, and has a Knight coming in. So Archer Queen comes down. Betfas is going to log this down instantly, get it down, and Xbow locks on the tower. Barn just didn't have enough elixir for the Xbow in time. However, Barn is going to Fireball. I think he should have Fireballed on the Xbow. Or just not Fireballed. I think that was a mistake. But then again, Xbow was on tower, so maybe he was panicking. But now Betfas can go for another Xbow. Very smart. Pulls the giant upwards. Doesn't let the giant get any damage on the tower. Barn has no elixir in hand at all. Betfas knew that Barn was low in elixir. And Barn just gives the wow. He knows Betfas just played very well at the very end to come back from a very hard situation. It's a very hard matchup, I would say. But some takeaways. Betfas was able to get the Xbow pressure in when the opponent went Sparky in the back. Going opposite lane, not same lane, because if you go same lane, there's always the risk that they could just ignore it and go all in and try and tower trade, and then you're basically going to lose because you're not going to come back in a tower trade situation, most likely. But very smart by Betfas. And also, that one time he let the Sparky connect onto the tower, that was also important because he didn't want the knight to just die. He also didn't want the knight to get tornadoed into the tower with a Sparky hit. So he just took the Sparky hit in that instance. And then last thing, Betfas intentionally gave fireball value with that Xbow Knight and Archers to try and force the fireball out so he could outcycle it, and also force the fireball out not on the tower. So just very smart, very good gameplay by Betfas overall. Very happy I was able to record these games to share with you guys. I apologize if I made a few commentating mistakes. I'm pretty tired, like I said before. But just insane gameplay that got Betfas to 35 wins in global tourney, number 48 in the world. I was only able to get to 26 wins on 2 accounts with 26 wins on both with Xbow. So just very inspirational. It goes to show that no matter how bad Xbow is, if you're a good enough player, you can make it work. You always have to remember that. If you don't enjoy playing Xbow, I would say don't play it. It's not worth it. But if you are inspired by someone like Betfas, like I am, he motivates me to do better, then stick with it. I'll provide you guys all the resources I can to improve and get better. And I thoroughly believe that a good Xbow player can still make the deck work. I always like to say Xbow might die in terms of balance changes. You know, they keep nerfing Xbow. They nerf Knight. They nerf Tesla twice. They called Xbow's nerf a rework, but it was really just a nerf. That time they reduced the lifetime. And yeah, so they can always nerf Xbow, and they can always kill Xbow, but they can never kill Xbow players. That's what I like to say. And so, hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Very inspirational gameplay by Betfas, getting to 35 wins in global tournament, top 100, gets the global tournament emote for probably the 7th or 8th time. 7 for one of my old friends and one of the best Xbow players in the world. Also got the global tournament emote 10 plus times. So very good Xbow players get top 100 in the global tournament very often. Betfas is no exception, and I hope you guys enjoyed the matches. Very hard counters today. Giant double prince, Royal Giant with lightning, Cycle, Royal Giant with lightning, with Skeleton King, heavier Cycle, and other just good to know matchups like Splashyard. You probably want to know how to play against Splashyard. That was a perfect match against Splashyard, perfect match against Logbait, punishing the opponent's mistake of not going for a rocket. And then an unconventional deck, you don't really see Giant Sparky too often, but it's always good to know how to play against it if you do. And so that's going to be the video, guys. Very thankful that I was able to get Betfas back on the channel and share it with you guys. You guys have enjoyed my commentary over top players' gameplay, so hopefully you enjoy that. I do still have videos of my own I want to make as well. I still want to upload my video where I got to 8K on ladder last season, and I do also want to make more mid-ladder pushing, road to mid-ladder, and then finally make a mid-ladder guide. And also maybe some grand challenge content, stuff like that. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Very happy I was able to get Betfas back on the channel. Go show him some support. I've linked his Twitter and his Royale API profile in the description below if you're interested. But hope you were able to learn something. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.